Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Untold, the show where we have extraordinary people doing extraordinary stuff. And for today's episode, it's by far a really interesting one.
Yeah, we're joined by Joumana Soufi, who's a fashion stylist. And we all know how fashion is one of your favorite subjects, Abdullah.
It is honestly, and this is something I've repeated before. Since we've got you on the program, the producers now have an excuse to bring all these, fashion-centric people on the show, and I'm really happy about it. It's opened my eyes to a brand new world I didn't even know about, right? Exploring the ideas that goes into making your outfit and choosing what to wear.
I agree because there are a lot of things I don't know about what goes on behind the scenes, but I do love fashion and clothes, and I do think that our guest has a lot of special things to say about it, given how edgy and funky her editorials are.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm really curious, like I said, about this episode because she was in a completely different field before going into fashion, right? And then she made a switch. And whenever we have a guest who made the leap of faith, to go into a different field, I'm really intrigued to sit down with them and talk all about it.
As am I, and I think we should just dive in and find out why did Joumana choose the fashion life, or did it choose her?
Very well said. We are going to go on a break so we can come back and sit down with her. And we are back to our fashion centric episode of The Untold. And first, I want to welcome you, Joumana Soufi, for joining us on The Untold.
Thank you for having me, Abdullah and Lujain, and I'm really looking forward to this evening with you guys.
We're looking forward to having you. And I thought we could talk about what led you to begin this journey in fashion.
Um, okay, so I come from a very different background. I come from investment, banking, kind of financial marketing kind of background.
Wow, so very different.
Very, very different. And I worked in that field for about 8 years. Um, it was all good, but it was not feeding my self-expression kind of side. I always loved fashion magazines. I always, when we were teenagers with no social media, no phones even maybe, um, we used to read magazines and we looked at the celebrities and the colors and the fashion and the style. The magazines were the source of our source of inspiration in beauty and style. Um, and I always used to love buying the magazines every week, English or American or Arab magazines, and trying to copy the styles I see into my wardrobe, even if it's just in my room. And when I was working in the financial field, I started a blog about fashion, and I used to review fashion collections, designers, local businesses, and etc. And then out of nowhere, I decided to start creating editorials with like a group of friends. So we started putting together a photo shoot once a month, just to express our creativity and um, experiment, build a portfolio mainly, and experiment with what we can and what we cannot do, and keep improving our skills. Um, and at that time, it was an actual blog, a website. There was no social media still. And we started getting noticed by different magazines in Kuwait, and they started contacting us, and we started creating for them different fashion features. And it snowballed after that. It's been about 16 years.
Mashallah, that's quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
And you actually brought me back to the past there with the magazines. I
Yeah.
remember doing that all the time when I was a teenager, looking at the magazines, maybe music videos, and that was all we had. So it's really cool that you started that way. And as you said, it snowballed and just sort of became your thing. Did you ever look at magazines, Abdullah?
Yeah, only those. I remember there was a magazine that, posted periodically a story, short story. I forgot what it's called, maybe El Walad or something like that. But I do find it interesting that you spent 8 years in a field and then you decided to make that leap, because after spending so much time, a lot of people get accustomed, get comfortable with where they are, that the other side of the field feels much more dangerous. So I want to take you to those kind of emotions in those first few days. Like, how did you feel like going through such a large transition, after spending so many years in one side of field?
Okay, so I am very careful at the steps I take with my career, whatever it is, but I also get bored very fast. And it's funny you said that because when I started the blog, I was still working in the financial investment, and when I decided to give it my full time and to leave the full time work and dedicate my time to the blog, blogging was not a thing in the region. Maybe it was still new. So I took the leap. I was sure I will be able to create something. I wasn't even sure. I don't get me wrong. I don't think I wanted to be a stylist per se, but I wanted to be in the creative field. So when I started creating, it wasn't even fashion exactly. It was more of beauty, artistic, ballet. We experienced with so many different movements and fabrics and shoots and lightings. I just wanted to create something beautiful. And I always thought I was going to be a photographer, not a
Oh,
stylist.
wow.
so, so how I ended up to be a stylist was, I think the market needed someone at that time. It was not something very common, and the group was different. Like me and my friends, we were different. We were not very, we were not very traditional. We would experiment. We weren't scared of trying different styles. We even did an underwater shoot in maybe 2008.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Yeah,
MashaAllah.
yeah. So it was. We were playing around. Honestly, we were young and playing around, and it worked.
Honestly, that's wonderful. And I want to kind of hear, how did the underwater shoot go?
Oh, okay. So the underwater shoot was a dream for me, and I wanted to put it together. And as I said before, since I was the one who came up with the idea to create editorials for the blog, I was kind of the mini producer for these shoots. So I had to like put the idea and choose the right people together and to choose the model, her face that suits the concept we're going for, and choose the location and everything. Um, I spoke to a photographer I liked about the underwater shoot. He agreed. And then I found a location and we like got a sponsorship and then the equipment was an issue because
I
it
can
was
imagine.
so like the equipment. I was looking for equipment for like 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
MashaAllah.
Yeah. Uh, and then I found a diving store that was willing to give us the cameras. And we were shooting at one of the hotels, so they didn't want us to disturb the members. So they gave us the place for overnight, and we started shooting at around 11 p.m. We were trying to make the camera work till about 7 a.m. The camera was good for diving. You can
Yeah.
see the water particles in the shots.
Well, you don't want that for the
No.
show, for the shoot.
So we wrapped it up, and I said that I was gonna look more for better equipment, and we're gonna do it again. We were not happy with those pictures. I actually did, and there was just one shop that had these cameras for underwater shoot. Um, I can't even remember the name. I don't know what they use it for. It's not like your typical cameras for fish. It's for something more advanced, so you don't see the water particles. You see like a clear shot. And at that time, I got a friend of mine who is the daughter of the Australian ambassador. She wanted to model for the shoot, so we put together everything. I bought the dresses from Friday Market.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted big gowns, and I wanted big fabrics, and I wanted something that will be used once and
Also
damp.
could like flow in the water and
Yes,
stuff.
exactly. And we did it, and it was published in one of the biggest magazines in Kuwait at the time.
MashaAllah.
Mhm.
I do want to ask you about that because, you said you are kind of the ideas person behind this shoot. And also as a stylist, you have to come up with a lot of ideas, you know, whether it be the type of clothing you're going to take, the type of image you want to, you know, provoke, the type of story you want to tell. So where do you get your inspiration from? Where do you get your ideas from?
Uh, Nowadays, online, I look a lot. I research online when I want to create a certain image for someone. Like I create a story in my head for the character I'm working with. Um, Let it be a celebrity or a TV series or TV commercial, whatever it is. But I try to create sense behind the image that is going to be on whatever they're going to be wearing. And I do a lot of visual research online. So I look at a lot of images, I look at a lot of editorial work, fashion magazines, um, until I'm happy with the board that I create for this character. And then I remove what I filter it, and then I start working.
Well, that actually sounds like quite a lot of work to do.
It is. It is. It's very draining. Honestly, it's mentally draining because, and a lot of times you get a mental block, a creative block, because
Happens.
you see a lot of pictures and images and so many things you want to do, and then it gets so overwhelming, and then you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and you stop. You have to stop and regroup, and then do it again. Try to do it again. You have to always try to draw the outline of your character, and once you do that, while you're looking, or I don't know, because maybe I'm a creative person, so visually I get visually intrigued. Once that happens, I have to save all these images and then filter and then delete and then save and then delete, and at the end if it makes sense, then I reach what I'm trying to do.
That's really cool. I think a lot of people, when they think about fashion, they think it's very easy. They don't assume that there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. And that was mainly your work in the more editorial photos, I guess. So when it comes to fashion styling, do you have a different vision when you're picking clothes?
You mean for celebrities?
For anything.
Okay. Mainly I try to keep the same frame of work. So I don't like to dress someone, whether for editorial or for anything else, any other project. I don't like to dress them in something that will make them uncomfortable. I like to understand the person in front of me. I have to speak to the model at least for 5 minutes to understand what am I working with. Because at the end of the day, I believe that when you're wearing something that's making you uncomfortable, or maybe it's not uncomfortable, maybe it's just not you, you will not be able to perform whatever it is that you're trying to do in the best way. So I believe the personality of the person has to play a role in the outcome and the final image. It's not just an outfit that I can put together and just throw it at 100 people and they're all going to be happy with it. It doesn't work like that. I think I have to create a certain outfit for every character, and when I say character, not just character that the image that I'm working with, it's even the personality of the person, what they feel, their likes, their dislikes, and that's something not a lot of people consider.
Yeah, I think they're not aware of that at all.
Yeah, and honestly, this brings me, you know, a curious point is that how do you balance whether you're trying to portray your own style or the person's style, right? Like, how do you balance whether to choose something that represents you or something that represents the person?
Okay, I'm gonna say something that might sound a bit controversial. If a stylist, if you can see the stylist's personal style and the person they are styling, that's not a good stylist.
Mm.
I don't think the stylist's signature should not be there,
Oh, okay.
because I'm not portraying my personal style. I can be into something. I really like, very feminine fabrics. But a lot of people nowadays like more, structured, more oversized. I love oversized. I wear it all the time, but I'm not gonna dress every woman I'm working with into something either feminine or something either, you know, oversized. Some people don't like this and don't like that. Some people really hate oversized. So same goes for men. You know, you really shouldn't force or even think of your personal style when you are styling someone, because as I said, it's a different character. I don't like to create the same image for everyone I'm working with.
Honestly, I think you made some really good points because you're right. The stylist should cater to the individual that they are styling. And it's not about imprinting your style, but finding a style that works for them. So that's really, really great that you do that. We are going to go on a short break, and then hopefully we can discuss this further. Stay tuned for after the break.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from the break. And most importantly, I do have something I'm really curious about because, your style, mashallah, it's very experimental. It's very, I would say, challenging at times. It takes a lot of risk. So do you feel that pressure to, take that risk, take that leap, go in whatever is against the conventional, or do you find yourself trying to play it safe sometimes?
As I said before, I get bored very fast. So, and a lot of times recently, I get creative blocks. So to avoid that, I try with every project that I accept and take on to create at least something new, or experiment a new style on someone, or for a photo shoot, or for TV, or whatever it is. But at the same time, when you're talking about playing it safe, I don't get involved with projects that I'm not interested in, let's say the style of. For example, just last month I was offered a project that was historical TV series. I looked into it and I thought, this style does not intrigue me.
Oh.
Although I never tried it. It's not something I want to get into because it's not something that, gives me that push that I want to learn this new style and stuff, So I declined the project. It's not playing it safe. It's more of knowing where you want to be, or knowing your playground, let's say. Experimenting, especially with fashion and with style, will never end. And I don't think it's very necessary to try every single style. Some styles are just not for me. And if I have to stick to them, I would very gladly decline the project.
Well, that's really cool. It seems like you found your own vision, your own voice. So you're aware of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And it takes a lot of integrity, I think, to say no to things instead of just chasing stuff just because they're there sometimes, especially when you have your own vision and style. And actually, you've garnered a lot of online support whenever you've been posting or showing your progress online. So how does it feel to know that a lot of people resonate with the styles that you create?
Honestly, I became an influencer by mistake. I was never, I never tried to become an influencer. In the beginning, I just shifted my blog to Instagram when Instagram happened. It was that simple. And I was not even showing my face. I was just putting my articles, the same articles, because when social media started, and mainly Instagram only, it took a lot of the footfall of the website, and the website became slower, a lot slower, although it was doing very, very well. So I started writing my articles on Instagram, and it went very well for a good amount of time. My readers were moved with me, actually, and we took it. Yeah, we started the whole thing together, I believe. And at that time, I was still just a stylist doing editorials for her blog and for magazines. The first job that I did for TV, I received a very random phone call from a producer, not in Kuwait, outside of Kuwait. And he told me they're coming to Kuwait to shoot a project and they were looking for a stylist online, and they saw my work and they love it and they want me for a TV project. And I immediately said, no way. Immediately. And he was like, what are you talking about? We really love your work, we'll support you. And I was like, it's not my, I don't know, and I don't want to, ruin your project, or, it's not for me. I got very scared. And then they insisted that I meet with them once they arrived to Kuwait, and I did. And they convinced me. It was a very traditional project. It was for an Islamic bank.
Oh, wow.
So going from fashion, very creative editorials, to a very strict first photo shoot for TV, and that was an Islamic bank. So that was very different. Honestly, I believe I was very lucky with the people I worked with and the projects that I took on. I was not crazy about quantity. I was always, from day one, very careful about the quality of work that I take on and the quality of work I give out. And it's not because I considered this first TVC as my first job. I always thought, because my name as a blogger was known, that I had something to, maintain. I had an image to maintain, even when people didn't know who I was, when they just read my articles. So every single project I took was very carefully executed, and I learned the hard way. And I think it's the best way to learn the hard way, when you really do every single thing with your own hands. I think that's the best way to learn and to improve and to succeed, basically.
This can segue into my next question, very adequately, is that you said, mashallah, you pick projects that you feel connected to, right? You don't feel the responsibility to just go with a project, for anything other than that. So I'd imagine the projects you do take, you have a lot of responsibility to, showcase it the best you can, because it's the one you chose, single-handedly. So when tackling such difficult projects, like, what is your process like? How do you approach them? How do you go about dealing with them?
So once I take on a project, first thing I need is to receive the brief from the client or whoever is in charge. What are they trying to create? How many characters? You want the details?
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so how many characters? What is each character doing? Even, the backup characters, I really don't like to just put them in any basics. I just want to have an idea, what are they going to be doing in frame. So I have to get the brief. After I get the brief, I need to receive the cast sheet. Once I get the cast sheet, I start working on I start working on the mood board at the same time while they're creating the cast sheet. But it really helps if I receive it beforehand. Seeing the person you're dressing makes a very big difference. A lot of times I would be creating a mood board not knowing who I'm dressing, and then out of nowhere the director would tell me, it's no, this is for someone who's really oversized, or this is for a woman, or this is no, this is for a pregnant lady. Or so it changes. It changes you have to change the vision that you created for this character, because you didn't have this information beforehand. Once I finish the mood board, I present it to the director and the client. Once I take the feedback, if they want to add any comments, I apply it, and then we start working and outsourcing the outfits.
Mashallah, that's a lot of steps that I was only made aware of right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there is a lot that goes into things, like we said, that people are not aware of. And do you find it a struggle to sometimes maintain your artistic integrity when you have to follow so many different paths, or focus on also what other people have to say?
Definitely. And honestly, especially I think in our markets in the region, I think um, the respect for a creative is building up, but it's not 100%. So they think anyone with a good taste can give their input on what you're working on. But when I receive input like that from anyone who's sitting in the, let's say, in the presentation meeting, it's mainly someone who saw one person dressed in something specific and then said, let's change this to that. But they did not look at the frame. They did not understand the research behind every character. Maybe he's going to change this person from wearing green to wearing blue, let's say, but the person next to him is also wearing blue. So the whole, visual of the frame is now a bit compromised. Um, uh, what I try to do is always to, work around it and try to convince the person in front of me of the story that was created for this character and how it was created, because as I said, there's a lot of research, so the research really helps. It's not just me saying, no, I think blue is nicer. It's not that. It's like me showing a full frame and saying, here the furniture in the back and the background is, let's say, brown, so we're going to use the complementing colors. We have these colors to work with. You have 4 people, so let's not use the same color more than once. And it's always a lot of conversation. Most of the time I get my way around it. Sometimes no, the director or the client would insist on something specific, and at the end of the day, when the project is not a creative project, it's like a commercial project, I have to comply. And this is why in the past 2 years I have really minimized my commercial work.
Yeah, it's a big collaboration kind of projects, all of these, kind of, I would say, endeavors. We are running out of time, so I do want to leave you with one last question, but I think it's equally as important for the topics that we've gone through today, is that you're also an advocate for mental health and wellness. So, I want you to go through the approach to that and what made you be such a spoken person on these topics.
As I said, when you learn everything from scratch and when you build your way from down up in a specific field, you go through a lot of hardships, and especially when you're at a young age, and especially in industry like, TV or commercial campaigns or etc. It was not easy. A lot of times it gets very stressful, and you have to sit and reflect and try to understand. A lot of times I had to take long breaks to try to put myself together mentally, and from there I thought, maybe it's something that not everyone is able to do by themselves, and that's how the idea of being advocate for mental health came along.
Well, honestly, that's really amazing that you've managed to do that, especially considering how much other work you have. And you're right, a lot of people in any industry will suffer from some mental issues just from the sheer stress of it all sometimes. So I'm glad that you're also advocating for that. And I want to thank you for joining us today
Thank you
because
for having me.
you really showed us the process. There's so much more steps than we were aware of. So thank you.
Thank you for having
And
me.
I want to
Yeah.
wish you the best of luck on your endeavors.
Thank you so much. Same to you.
Thank you. And for that, we are going to take a break. We'll come right back after this one. And that's it from us, the team of The Untold. Unfortunately, that's all the time we've had, Lujane, for today's episode.
Honestly, it was a great episode. She said so many interesting things, and I love how she brought back magazines as her starting point because I forgot all about that life. It was so long ago when we used to look at magazines, not social media, for inspiration.
It is, honestly. And, speaking of inspiration, I was really an admirer of how she said she picks projects based on what she connects to, but based on what she feels is right for her, right? She's a woman of integrity. She picks, with a lot of responsibility to represent herself very well in the amount of projects you take. I found that really, admirable.
I agree. It is very admirable because a lot of people tend to just sort of do whatever, whereas she has her own vision, her own voice, her own style, and she's very confident in her own abilities.
She is. We want to thank her for joining us on The Untold, but most importantly, we want to thank the audience for tuning in. But unfortunately, that's it from us. Until the next episode, goodbye for now.
Goodbye and see you next time.